Okay, here we go. We are actually doing, or I am doing, Vince is still here though, a 4K review for the brand new 4K Top Gun in Dolby Atmos that just came out a few days ago. Or if you're watching this and if I don't post it for a few weeks ago. Or maybe even a month ago, I don't know. But it has come out.
So David was able to get this in 4K. I still have not been able to get it in 4K. I haven't had a chance to go and buy it yet. So, but as far as the movie goes, I mean, we're reviewing the movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot to say about this movie. For the simple fact that, I mean, I've already talked to you about it, so you're going to hear it all over again. Talking to Vince. But, yeah, I never saw this movie. This came out in the 80s. I was a teenager at the time. My green screen's crackling behind. This came out in the 80s. I was a teenager at the time. And, that's all I heard about was Top Gun, Top Gun, Top Gun, Top Gun, Top. This was the Home Alone syndrome that Vince had for Home Alone.
It was dumb. It was just dumb.
This was my Home Alone syndrome, was I heard about it, I heard about it, I heard about it. I heard about it so much, I didn't want to go see it because I was sick of hearing about it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not, because I was, I was a rebel when I was a teenager. It's like, you guys go see it, I'm not going to see it because I'm a rebel. And I've heard too much about it.
Now you don't give a crap. He'll go see anything.
If it was, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, they came out with like the 30th anniversary edition or something like that. I don't remember what it was. And I heard it was coming out, and I was like, it's time.
He finally felt the need for speed.
I felt it. I was like, it's been, 30 years? Why not? I'll give it a chance. But Vince actually has a story. So let's get up the story time for Vince here. Tell your story, Vince.
This came out in like 1987, I believe it was. So I was like 16 years old, still in high school, right? So me and a friend of mine, we were gonna go to the movies. He said, let's go to the movies. Okay, yeah, we'll go to the movies.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So I forget what we were gonna actually go and see. We talked about what we were gonna go see, and then he was finally, well, let's just pick a movie when we get there. Like, all right. So I'm thinking we're gonna go in through the front door and, through the box office, pay for the movie, just go in and watch it. No, he parks around back behind because the movie theater was in like a shopping plaza. And it was only 2 screens at the time. Now you got, 18 screens, 24 screens, 52 screens everywhere. Now, at the time, this place only had 2 screens. So he parks behind this place, and I'm like, okay, so what are we doing? And he starts walking up to the back door. I'm like, where are you going? And he's like, going into the movie. I'm like, they have a front door. And he says, well, I'm going in.
Viewers of this show brought this coward to justice. Okay, let's go. Let me tell you something, bro. You're in big, big trouble.
I had never really snuck into a theater to see any movie. I had never really done that. I mean, I kind of done that before, but I never stuck around. I never really. It's kind of like I walked into a movie theater and kind of saw part of the movie, but I never stuck around for it. And I would walk back out because I was actually afraid of getting caught. So I never really done that. But this one time I actually did it, and this is what we saw. It was Top Gun, and I actually missed like the first, I think, 5 minutes of the film or so. But until later on, I saw it way later on. But that's how I saw Top Gun for the first time.
So I saw it about 2 years ago for the first time. I don't even know how to really explain the experience. It was such an amazing experience because it took me back to the 80s, because obviously it's an 80s movie, and when you watch an 80s movie, you can kind of feel, that it was made in the 80s. And it took me right back there. I felt like I was a teenager. Like I was still 16 watching this movie for the first, and it blew me away. I was like, oh my, from the very first shot to the last shot, I was like, this is incredible. This is incredible. I loved everything about it. And one thing that now just watching it again in 4K and this Dolby Atmos surround sound and everything, that I was so impressed with the first time, and this is only the second time I've ever seen this movie, and I kind of wish I would have waited and watched it like this, but was no CG was in this movie. All real freaking jets were in this film, and it just knowing that when you're watching it, you're watching a real thing, or you're watching a fighter pilot up there in the jet, and it's mind-blowing that they could film all that stuff.
Yeah, it was. Well, see, you got to experience all of that. You got to hear all this, especially in 4K now. You really get to hear everything. But at the time when I saw this on that 2-screen theater, it was actually on the smaller screen, because they had one big screen and then they had a small screen, and it was actually on the smaller screen for whatever reason. But the place that we saw it in, they had stereo speakers. But it's not like it was now. I mean, this place was like literally back in time. I mean, it was, when movie theaters weren't doing anything like they have now, Dolby this and THX that, and all the technology that they have now wasn't there at that time. And so hearing this, it was like I would compare it to almost listening to it on a transistor radio. I mean, compared to what they have now. So it was still exciting. It was still, I mean, the movie itself was, it like David said, it blew me away. But listening to it like that, it was just, it was like listening to it on a VHS tape long ago. There wasn't really much different to it. But now it would be completely different.
Anytime I had to walk into like a Best Buy or Circuit City, which don't exist anymore, or any sort of electronics store, and they take you back in that little electronics room that had all the surround sound, this was the movie they put on there to impress you with the whoosh and the jets flying by. And every time I walked in there, and I never saw the movie, but that was always their demo disc, was because the surround sound even then for this movie was incredible. Now you can imagine listening to this film in 7 speakers. They have them above you, in front of you, behind you, and it's just surrounds you, and it makes you feel like you're Tom Cruise. And that's one thing about this movie, that if I was a teenager, I would have came out there like, you know what, I'm gonna join the Air Force. Yep, I'm gonna sign up. I mean, if this is what it's like, oh my God, I could be in the Air Force right now.
And the funny part about him mentioning the whole demo disc thing and everything, the first laser disc, I had a laser disc player.
Music video, I can't see it. If the music don't sound good, who cares what the picture looks like? Then Pioneer gives me their laser disc player. It's a video turntable that works with a laser beam, and that laser beam makes all the difference, they tell me.
I still do, actually. I still have it. But I had a Laserdisc player that I bought, and I bought it from Curtis Mathis, which doesn't exist anymore either. But I bought it from Curtis Mathis, and when I bought it, I brought it home and hooked it up and everything. Didn't have any idea that what was in it. I didn't know there was anything in it, so I figured, okay, well, I'm gonna put one of my Laserdisc in it because I had bought some Laserdisc. So, but it was brand new. I mean, it was a brand new player, but they sold me the display model that was there. So I brought it home, hooked it all up, pressed play. What comes on? Top Gun. So they had it in there already. That I guess they were demoing it at one time. But when I went in there to buy this Laserdisc player, they didn't have it on, so I had no idea this was even in it. So I got a free Laserdisc of Top Gun.
Now, all the actors in this movie, too, were outstanding. Tom Cruise, I mean, this is kind of pretty much what made his career, I think. He did Risky Business right before this, and then he did this movie. And I've been listening to some of the commentary, which I'm going to get to here in a little bit. But the director was saying that they were offering him this role. They wanted him to be in this role, and he didn't want it. You know, he's like, I don't want to do it. And because he'd only made Risky Business.
He
made Risky Business, and he made Legend.
It was just dumb.
And then he made this. Because he just came off the Legend. And so the director's like, okay, we're going to get him, and we're going to get the Blue Angels, and we're going to get him up in an airplane, up in an actual jet, and he's going to fly around, and I guarantee you he'll want to do it afterwards. So they actually took him to wherever the Blue Angels were, and they took him up in an actual jet, and they said, don't go easy on him. And they flipped the jet around like 15 times. He said he probably threw up all over himself, and there was vomit everywhere, and he landed, and he went and he says, I'm doing the movie. So that's how they got him to do this movie.
Okay, well, I didn't know any of that, because I've not known anything really behind the scenes of this movie whatsoever, which is surprising. I mean, because usually this is like one of those movies that I would kind of be interested in watching behind the scenes or commentary or something about, but I've actually learned absolutely almost zero about this film.
The other thing I really loved about this movie is it seemed like the Tom Cruise character Maverick and Goose, their connection was just amazing in this film because they seemed like best friends. They didn't seem like they were acting. They seemed like they were best friends forever, and just the acting ability between both of them was incredible. It's just like you felt like they'd known each other forever, and it's just a great pairing between them two. I thought that was just awesome.
Yeah, they did such a good job. It was one of those things where it's like as soon as you saw them on screen together, you knew they were friends. You knew that they had a connection. Sort of like Miyagi and Daniel in The Karate Kid. You knew the moment you saw those two on screen, they had a connection together. They could be friends. But in this one, it's definitely, you know, they're best friends right from the beginning. You know that they have some sort of bond together, and that's what's great.
And then you have Iceman in here, which is of course Val Kilmer. And to put a movie in Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer in it, I mean, that's one thing I want to say about this too. It's pretty much a perfect movie. It's definitely a perfect date movie, and I think that's why it has lasted as long as it has. Not just because it was an incredible movie. It's still incredible watching it today. I still get, well, only my second time, but I still get goosebumps watching the jets fly and then doing all their maneuvers and everything. But you got all that for the guys. You got all the manly man stuff for the guys. You got the jets and the fighting and stuff. But then you also have a romantic story in there for all the women who want the romance. I'm not saying that all women want romance. You know, some of them probably want to see the jets too. But, you know, you get the mixture of both stuff guys want to see and stuff the women would want to see, especially back in the 80s, I guess. And you mixed them together, and they all worked perfectly. It's like the romantic stuff works in the movie, and they don't really just focus just on that. It's like it doesn't go on too long before all the other cool stuff's happening. But it's in there, and it's great. And so I think it's just a perfect movie.
Yeah, well, the biggest draw to it was Tom Cruise himself. I mean, in the 80s, especially at that point in time when this came out, was guys wanted to see it, yes, because of all the jets and all the, you know, it being the Air Force and the whole, you know, all that macho manly stuff. But the girls wanted to see it because Tom Cruise. That's really the big draw there, and yeah, there's plenty of romance in the film. There's a whole thing with Kelly McGillis, who was in Witness before this, and was fantastic in that movie as well. And she did this movie awesome. She did an awesome job. But the whole romance in here, I've never had a problem with it. Never had an issue with it, and it's a good love story. And when they actually are able to mix action with an action picture, or even slightly a war picture to a point, with a good love story, this is how you do it. I mean, that's how you do it. They did a perfect. It's just perfect writing, perfect filming, perfect acting. All of the actors in here were phenomenal.
Tom Skerritt I've always liked, and he was so good in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Michael Ironside was great in here, and all of them were just perfect for that role that they gave them. It was like, okay, whoever casted this film did an amazing job. And like you were saying about the romance, it was just a great balance between the two. It wasn't overwhelming one or overwhelming two. It was just a perfect balance.
Right, I totally agree. And you mentioned Michael Ironside. I almost forgot he was in this. Because I was thinking, right when you mentioned him, I was thinking of the next Karate Kid, where he was, where he was playing the John Kreese part of that film, and how terrible it was in that movie. He was good, but the whole part was dumb. But in here, perfect part. He plays a perfect part, and he does a phenomenal job. And that's one thing I was saying in the next Karate Kid is I'd seen him in other films, and I actually forgot about Top Gun. I'd seen him in other films, and he does a phenomenal job. So I know he's a great actor.
Okay, so yeah, I love the film. I mean, it's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I mean, it really is. So now, let's get to the 4K review of this film. It's amazing. I mean, it's mind-blowing. The quality of the film. There's some parts in the movie that the image gets a little bit soft in. It's kind of like soft and fuzzy. But because I think that's just the way they filmed it. But then there's other scenes, especially with the jets, and they sweat a lot in this movie. There's a lot of perspiration in this film. And you can see it on their skin, and you can see the pores, and you see them just dripping. It was really hot, wherever it was they were filming. And the quality, it's amazing. It's absolutely freaking amazing. So the best part of the whole thing, though, just like it was back in the 80s, was the sound. Oh my God. And it's like, just, the sound was, I don't even know how to explain it. The jets were, you felt like you were in the jet. I mean, you literally did. You felt like you were sitting in a cockpit of the jet, and just the air flying around you and everything, and it's just, oh, holy crap. And we forgot to mention one of the best parts of the movie, Vince, the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah, the soundtrack.
When I watched this for the first time, I was like, oh, well, I knew the Danger Zone came from the movie. I knew they made it for the movie. But I was like, and then the next song came on, I was like, wait a minute, this came from this movie? And the next song, I was like, hang on, this came from this movie? And the next song, I was like, hey, that came from this movie? It's an amazing soundtrack, and that's what also sold this movie so well. And listening to it in Dolby Atmos, incredible, because they split up the sound. It's like you can hear the music in front of you, the singing and stuff, and then you hear on the speakers behind you, like, the guitar playing and stuff. They split it. It's like they split the music somehow to where it's literally sounds like you're in the middle of the danger zone. Like you are in the danger zone.
So what you're saying is basically the soundtrack and the sound and the picture and everything about this movie took your breath away. Yeah, I've always liked that. This is like one of my favorite soundtracks of the 80s is the Top Gun soundtrack. I love Kenny Loggins' music for movies. He does a lot of music for movies. Some of his stuff, that you don't usually hear, it's all right. It's good. But most of his stuff that he does for movies is phenomenal. He does some really phenomenal songs for movies. And he's done a lot of them. He's done Caddyshack. He's done Top Gun. He's done Over the Top. I mean, he's done a lot of movie soundtracks, songs for movie soundtracks. Footloose was one of his biggest ones, and they're always phenomenal. And this one is no different.
Okay, so there are some extras here. I want to get into the extras, and I'm going to talk about the extras and let you know a little bit about what the extras are here. So let's get into the extras. Alright, so because of time issues, I have not had a chance to actually sit down and watch all the extras. However, I will tell you what is on the actual disc. And it does come with a few new extras, actually. Brand new audio commentary with Jerry Bruckheimer, Tony Scott, Jack Earps Jr., and naval experts. The legacy of Top Gun On Your 6, 30 years of Top Gun, and this is actually 30 minutes and it's split up into 5 parts. The older things that are actually on the disc, that were on the other disc, is Danger Zone, the making of Top Gun, that is in 6 parts, and it's about an hour and 47 minutes, so looks like it's might be a pretty good making of. Then you have multi-angle storyboards, Flat Spin, multi-angle storyboards, Jester's Dead, Best of the Best, Inside the Real Top Gun, Kenny Loggins, Danger Zone music video, Berlin, Take My Breath Away music video, Loverboy, Heaven in Your Eyes music video, Harold Flatemeyer and Steve Stevens Top Gun Anthem music video, behind the scenes featurettes, survival training featurettes, Tom Cruise interviews, and TV spots. Even though I haven't watched these extras, it sounds like it's a pretty good, decent amount of extras. So there you go. There is our review for the 4K Top Gun Spectacular. Just spectacular. I couldn't even tell you how great this was. You'd have to hear it and watch it yourself. And if they still have those rooms at Best Buy, I guarantee you this is what's going to be on the demo disc for the next 10 years probably. Well, Vince went to the danger zone, so I'm going to end it here with saying, if you have any doubts, don't. Buy this movie in 4K. You will not be disappointed. And also, make sure you hit that subscribe button here so we won't be disappointed when you don't come back for the next review, because we love all our maniacs here. You know we love you guys. We love all the maniacs. And hit the bell so it will pop up and let you know that we are posting a new review. And we're going to try to get some new stuff out for you here soon, as much as we can. And I'll see you next time here on